helping you to weather good and bad economies without putting retirement on hold. This is the Tumolo Financial Podcast with Ken and Nick Tumolo. Ken and his son Nick know that creating a comprehensive financial plan can align your hard-earned life savings with your retirement goals. Consider them your retirement architects. Now, the Tumolo Financial Podcast with Ken and Nick Tumolo.
The recent headline that we've been seeing a lot more lately of is the layoffs that have been coming in masses by some of these big corporations. We have seen companies like UPS, Intel, Microsoft. We saw those headlines about Amazon letting thousands of employees go recently, many right on the cusp of retirement. So for somebody who is laid off at a certain phase of life, they're in their 50s or early 60s, or perhaps maybe somebody that hasn't been laid off, but they've heard rumblings, they're concerned. What do they need to be thinking about? What would you recommend to somebody who has these worries or is experiencing a layoff situation?
Yeah, and I'll go over two instances. So one, it's investment allocation we should definitely looking at, because what I have seen, and one thing that has been coming up a lot in the meetings I've been with people coming in the last few weeks is we've had a couple of shaky job reports the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And it's something to monitor and say, okay, is this a trend that's going to continue or is this just a blip?
Okay.
And we're not sure. And you're never going to be 100% sure anyway. Even you could go and list all the great investors like Warren Buffett and someone like that, and they don't know 100% what's going to ever happen in the economy.
Of
I
course.
mean, if they did, they'd even do even better. And we all know Warren Buffett's done great. But for a retiree, you want to make sure you're able to do the things you want to do in retirement or retire at the age you want to. So when you start seeing these headlines come out and you start seeing the market being a little uneasy with it, and the market hasn't really reacted as much to the jobs report. We've seen kind of a little bit more, it's kind of slowed down. It hasn't been as increasing like it was in the last few months.
Yeah.
So you want to look at your investment allocation is one of the big things, just because if you're on the market, and most people, when I talk to them, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm moderate. Oh, I'm conservative. Some people will say they're aggressive. And when I go into their 401ks, 403bs, 457s, their employer-sponsored plans, I see usually they're 100% of the market usually.
Okay.
Or they're in that target fund.
Yeah.
And usually the target fund stocks, bonds, and maybe a little bit of cash the closer you get to retirement, because they do adjust those things.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to look at it and say, okay, if the market did end up going down today, 30, 40, or even 50% like the last two recessions, are you okay to retire still if this happens? And when you look at the investment allocation and it's cutting it somewhat close, you're like, okay, I might have to go back to work. I might have to make decisions if I don't adjust this. So one of those big conversations, and I actually talked to just yesterday with someone, and this is what I'm saying. A lot of people are coming in about this issue, about the jobs layoff. And it's not just about if they're going to get laid off, but it's okay if something happens in the market. And that's why I kind of want to talk about today. So the person I talked to yesterday, he has an appetite for the market, but how his numbers show is at 90, there's only a little bit of money left over down the road. So if he's fully in the market and something happens and he wants to retire in 2 years, he's going to have to make a decision whether to keep going or decide to basically, okay, I might have to adjust my plan and do a little less in retirement. So it's some of those things that you got to kind of look at with him where, okay, he has to make that decision. Does he want to cut back? And this is where I have the big conversation, especially with those aggressive traders. Fear of missing out, FOMO. We all have it for all factors of life. So for him, I was like, let's step back a piece of it and make sure that you're going to be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to structure some of his money and put it into a safe investment. So safe investments, if anyone knows, stuff that can't go down. So money market, U.S. Treasury, CDs, fixed index annuities, stuff that they're boring. Unfortunately, they are boring. Yeah. You're going to get a few percent and stuff like that, depending on the times and stuff like that.
Sometimes boring isn't bad.
Exactly. I won't bore people. I was about to make a Penn State reference and say boring offense is a little bit better than getting a little gimmicky. But so it's the same thing as retirement. You don't want to worry about, okay, I need to go get 15, 20% in retirement. I need to make sure that I'm able to do the things all the the bucket list items, so that when you're back on your deathbed at 90, 95, 100 years old, you're like, I'm happy I did the things I want to do. Oh, I'm happy I went on that trip with my family. I went out to eat a few more times, and I did the things the experiences I wanted to do. So that's where we kind of build that out in that Tumolo retirement checkup. Make sure that you're hitting at least most of those bucket list items, or all of them if we can. And that's where we build it out complimentary. So our phone number is 860-854-3434, or you can go to our website at tfcheckup.com.
We have opened up 5 spots on the calendar just for radio listeners today. If you have questions or concerns regarding a layoff with your position at a certain phase of life, when you're in your mid to late 50s, early 60s, you're preparing to retire, the last thing you want to be worried about, or the last position you want to put yourself in, is a panic position. There are ways to plan ahead so that you don't find yourself in a crisis. At Tumolo Financial, they are here to help you figure that out. So again, the number you're dialing, 860-854-3434. You can also find us at tfcheckup.com or give us a call. Let's begin the conversation about your Tumolo Financial retirement checkup. It's 860-854-3434. All right, Alyssa, bringing the headline to you now, because earlier this year, health insurance provider Humana announced that it's going to be dropping 550,000 customers who have its Medicare Advantage plans. The company says that the products are less profitable and it wants to cut costs and shore up its stock price. So if somebody were to get a notification like this, what are their options?
Yeah, so I did have this circumstance with a few of my clients this year that got notifications.
Really?
Obviously, I saw the notification on my back end first before I could even tell them that their plan was going away.
Okay.
But, then once the open enrollment period started, they would get notifications from their insurance company saying that their plan will be terminated in their area. So I did have to deal with this with a few people this year. It's funny because some people saw it and were like, I need to come in tomorrow and talk to you. And some people saw something come in from their insurance company and didn't even read it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had called them for an appointment and they came in and they said, I don't know if I want to make a change. And I said, well, you have to. You didn't get your little notice saying that you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
So that's also why it's important to kind of have someone look at these things for you, because if they didn't have anyone looking out for them, they wouldn't have known. And then they potentially wouldn't have had, an advantage plan for January 1st. So that's just something that, just be careful. But yeah, so in this circumstance, I had these people come in, and it's really because it happened during the annual enrollment period, they had the opportunity to switch. It was as of January 1st that they would need a new plan. I even had some radio listeners that called and came in because their plan was terminating. So it is something that we're seeing. We're also seeing some plans that terminate and then they just kind of crosswalk you to a different plan. So there's kind of two ways that they go about it. Either you just they're saying this is over, you need to make a new decision, or they auto crosswalk you to a different plan.
Okay.
But again, the one they automatically put you on might not even be, a good
might not be
option
best for
you
you.
either.
Yep.
So exactly. So it's kind of reevaluating those things and making another election for another plan so that you have coverage that's still suitable for you. Another situation where this can kind of happen similar is if you're like retiring or leaving your employer and you're losing that coverage and you have to go on Medicare. So that's something I know some people get confused and they're like, do I have to do that during the annual enrollment period so that I have that option to choose a plan? And you don't. If you're losing your employer coverage, you will get a special election period that opens up for you. It does last for 2 months after the month that your coverage ends. So if you were retiring and you'd have no more health insurance coverage as of November 1st, then you would get 2 months after that to pick and see if you wanted to join an Advantage plan or a drug plan on Medicare.
In that space, it's kind of like when you have a job change, you don't just lose all coverage.
Right.
The rules and the laws respect that life changes. It's not like you're locked into certain time frames.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So don't panic. You do have that, special election period that opens up. And there's other things too, like if you move, there's special election periods, there's different circumstances. So but being aware of them and knowing that, maybe there's a change that you can make would, because sometimes you're in a plan and you're like, oh, I'm regretting this. And sometimes maybe there is an opportunity for you to change that you're not aware of. Okay. So it's always just good to know those rules and have someone that can walk through that with you. So again, our number is 860-854-3434. If you want to go over those options and know, maybe you have a special election period, even sometimes for like hurricanes and things like that. If there's a disaster area, they'll open up a special election period.
Okay.
And then the other thing I just kind of want to touch on is some of the plans this year are going from being a PPO plan to an HMO plan. So what that means is a PPO plan, you have the option that you can see a provider out of network.
Okay.
You just pay a little more. Your cost sharing is just a little more if you're going out of network, but you have the option, you have the flexibility, and that's important to some people. And so this year, a lot of the companies have been kind of cutting their PPO plans and going to HMO plans, which means that you have to stay in network unless it's an emergency. You don't have any coverage for out-of-network benefits.
Okay.
So that could be a big deal for people, especially sometimes if I see people that maybe split their time in 2 states or, something like that. That's a big deal. They have some providers maybe in Florida and some providers in Connecticut. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're kind of getting crosswalked into a plan that's an HMO, just know what that means and know what those effects may be. And, that might not be a good decision for you. And maybe we look at some other options. So again, our number is 860-854-3434, or you can go to tfcheckup.com and we can review all these things with you.
Investment advice offered through Tumolo Wealth Management, a Connecticut-registered investment advisor. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here.